Hello guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to a big one, the early championship predictions for the 22-23 season. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. Take these predictions with a pinch of salt because they are coming at you incredibly early, but let's get into this. So then guys, let me explain how this video is going to work. Obviously I've split it into 5 different categories. We've got the top 6, the top half, the top 12, mid-table, surviving, and my bottom 3. Obviously do take these predictions, like I say, with a pinch of salt. It is early and these aren't my official predictions, but they're my early predictions, and let's get into it, starting with Rotherham United. Now Rotherham did amazing in League One, as they always do. I think Rotherham are just too good for League One. They're never struggling to get out of that division, but when it comes to the Championship, they do struggle to stay up. Now, I think it'd be interesting to see Rotherham stay up. I've always said about teams that seem to be a bit of a yo-yo team, I'd like to see them break that trend and stay up. But the Championship is very competitive this year, and I don't know if Rotherham will survive. Paul Warne obviously has been in the Championship with them a few times, and it just doesn't work. Like I say, they're too good for League One. Depends on the recruitment. They could do enough to survive, but I am going to put them in my bottom 3. I'm sorry, Rotherham fans. You let me know if you think you're going to break the trend this year. Next up, Norwich City, and it's the other way round. They're just too good for the Championship, so they're going straight into my top 6. Obviously, it's Dean Smith this time round, not Daniel Farke, but they are always just too good for this division. Don't get me wrong, if Norwich don't get off to a good start, they could struggle. It's a very competitive Championship this year, but Norwich are going to be one of my favourites. And do you know what? When it comes to my official predictions, I might even put them in my top 2. So Norwich are going in there. Next up, Blackpool, one of my favourite teams from last season. I like them as a club, I like their fans, I like some of the players, and I really like the manager Critchley. I think Blackpool did really well. They started incredibly. They fell down the table a little bit, but I think they could push on and maybe finish around 12th, 13th or 14th this year. Maybe surprise a few people. If they got off to a good start, they could jump into that top half. I'll put them in mid-table. Blackpool fans, let me know if you agree down below, but I think Blackpool could be a very decent team again next year. Next up, Burnley. Now this is a tricky one. It's a bit different to if I'm predicting Norwich and Watford because they've been in the Championship more recently, so I know what to expect from them. As for Burnley though, it's a bit of an unknown. Obviously, it's very important who the manager is for Burnley, and obviously it's important to see which players stay. But I always think a team that comes down, that hasn't been in this division for a while, might struggle to adjust to it. Obviously, Burnley will be one of the strong teams. I think they're one of the favourites to make the top 6. But I think they could just fall outside it. Like I said, there's teams that are very hungry to get back to the Premier League that haven't been there for a while. Burnley have got parachute payments, and out of the 3 teams that come down, there's always at least 2 of them getting promoted. I think Burnley might just fall short. I'm going to say top 12, but we'll wait and see. Burnley will be a strong team and one of the favourites. Next up, Hull City. Very interesting season last year. We saw the manager change. I quite like Arveladze as the manager. I think Hull City will be one of those teams where people might expect them to go down. They stayed up, but will they go down this year? I don't think so. I think Hull City will do alright this season. I think they did very well to stay up, and that first season is always important. It's something to build on going into this season. There is a case to say they could finish mid-table or higher, but I'm going to put Hull City in the surviving category. I think they'll be fine from relegation. They'll stay up, but that second season can always be quite tricky as well. Next up, Wigan Athletic. I do like Wigan. I'm happy to see them come back up. They've been in League One for a couple of seasons, and I think they will stay up. Like I say, it's very competitive, and usually 1 or 2 of the teams that come up will go back down. But I think Wigan were undoubtedly the best team in League One. They surged over the line. They won the league as well. I think Wigan will survive. I'm excited to see what they can do, and I'm excited to go to the DW next season. Next up, Reading. Now, Reading is a tricky one. Obviously, they did quite well when Paul Ince came in because they were really in the thick of it, and they stayed up ahead of the likes of Peterborough, Derby and Barnsley. This is going to be an interesting season. Obviously, they had a points deduction last year, but it doesn't mean this season is going to be necessarily much easier. I think the Championship is going to be very competitive, and I think this could be one of them seasons where you might need about 47, 48 points to survive. We've seen that in a couple of recent seasons, and I think Reading might actually fall short. I do like Reading. They're not a bad club. I'm excited to go back to the Medeski, but I'm saying they're going down. Reading in my bottom 3. Next up, Blackburn Rovers. Now, we don't know who the manager is just yet. They finished 8th last year, and I think it was the right decision to change Tony Mowbray over because Tony Mowbray was getting close with them, but he always seems to have this thing where they fall away after Christmas. And it's going to be interesting as well to see which players they can hold on to going into this season, because if they keep their best players and recruit correctly and get the right manager, there's no doubt they could be a very decent team. I think for now, because of the uncertainty, I think it's quite safe to put Blackburn around mid-table. So I'll say mid-table for Blackburn Rovers. Next up, Sheffield United, and I think they're going to do well next season. I think now they've got Heckingbottom for the whole season, I think they'll push on and do better than last season. Obviously, last season they finished in 5th, but like I said, they had a slow start under Jokanovic, and if Heckingbottom was there since the start, they could have competed for the top 2. I think they were desperately unlucky in the playoffs. They did push Forest very, very well in that second leg at the City Ground, but just fell short, and who knows, if they'd have won that game on the shootout, they could have gone on to get promoted. I think this season they might get promoted. I'm going to put them in the top 6. Next up, Bristol City. Tricky one, Bristol City. Obviously, Nigel Pearson. I just don't see how they're going to improve too much. They finished 17th last year. I think they might finish around the same this year. I don't think they'll necessarily get worse, but I don't know how they're going to get better. I suppose it comes down to the recruitment. Obviously, they've got goal scorers in that team. I'm going to put them in surviving. Bristol City are a bit of a tricky one to predict for me. West Bromwich Albion are next, and I think they're going to improve on last year. Now, Steve Bruce might not be the best manager. Some people might not be too pleased about him being there, but I think there's a way which they make the top 6. I think for me, it's the club they are, the money they should be able to spend, and the players they've already got there. If they could just make things click, they don't have to be the most attractive team, but it's a results business. I think with Steve Bruce, they could just get enough results to be in that top 6 this season. So I'm going to put West Brom in there. Next up, Cardiff City, another tricky one. Obviously, 18th last year under Steve Morrison. Bit of a tricky season to break down. Obviously, there was a few changes. I think Cardiff City could improve this year, but like I say, it's so competitive. I might put Cardiff City similar to where they were last year. I suppose when I do my official predictions, I'll look at their business through the summer and say, this is why I think they're going to move up or down the table. But for now, I think it's a safe bet just to put them roughly where they were last year. But I think if they're going to move in any direction, I think they're going to get better. But we'll wait and see. Next up, Millwall. They're definitely going in the top half. There's a case for them to make the top 6. They always run very, very close. But I think the problem is for the teams like Millwall, Coventry, QPR, Huddersfield, we're competing with parachute payment teams, and it's so hard when they've got much more money. I think Millwall will do well, though. I do like Rowett as the manager, and I think they could finish similar to where they did last season, around 8th or 9th. Could break into the top 6, but we'll wait and see. Next up, Watford. They're going in the top 6. I think we know what to expect from them because they were in the Championship 2 seasons ago. Obviously, they finished 19th in the Premier League. It wasn't good enough for them to stay up, but there was glimpses in the Premier League where they were actually quite good. It was the home form that they needed to improve on. That's maybe something they can improve on here. I think they were actually the best home team last time they were in the Championship, which is quite an interesting thing to compare to when they were in the Premier League last season. I think they're going to be good, though. I think the players they've got, the money they should be able to spend, I think Watford will be in that top 6. It's very competitive, though. Next up, their rivals, Luton Town, and I'm actually going to put them to join Watford. I think Luton Town are going to be in there again. I think what some people might say is Luton Town, you could compare them to maybe like Barnsley. They made the top 6 when no one expected them to. This season, they might fall away. I don't think that's going to be the case. Luton Town, for me, have been building very, very well. You look at where they've come from the National League, and the thing for me is the manager. Nathan Jones and that club go hand in hand. Luton Town for me, I really wouldn't be surprised if they finish in the top 6 again. Next up, Middlesbrough. They're a team that some people will be saying they could make the top 6, and I agree. They're definitely in the top half. The question is, are they going to finish 7th or 8th, or are they going to break in there, finish 6th, 5th or 4th? Because I think they'll be in that sort of margin. Obviously, the manager being Chris Wilder is a manager who knows the Championship, but I was a little bit put off last season when he was linked with Burnley, and he didn't really give much clarity on it, and I feel like Middlesbrough didn't really pick up the results around that time when Forest and Sheffield United were. And I don't know, Middlesbrough, it's a tricky one. They've got good players. I'll put them in my top half. You let me know if you think Middlesbrough break into the top 6 this year. Next up, Preston North End. I feel like I know what to expect from them this season because Ryan Lowe did very, very well with them. Last season, I wrote them off. I said they'd struggle, and I was wrong. I think Preston are a team that are just so steady in the Championship. You can't really expect them to go down. I think they'll finish mid-table again. Preston have got decent players, and like I say, with Ryan Lowe being there through the summer and through next season from the start, I think they could even push towards the top half. I'll put them mid-table for now. Queen's Park Rangers next. I think if I was a manager not attached to a club, I'd look at this and say this is quite an attractive proposition. Obviously, Mark Warburton did incredible with them through 2021, but they fell away. Last season, they were my dark horse to make the top 6, and they just fell short of it. This season, I might not back them as much, just because I don't want to jinx it for them. I think QPR could be between mid-table and the top 6. I'll put them in mid-table for now. Stoke City are going to join them for me. Since the parachute payments have run out, Stoke City have kind of dwindled around mid-table, and there's a real concern that if they don't start progressing, they could start regressing. But I think under O'Neill, they've shown decent signs. They just had a bit of a wobbly middle of the season. I'm going to say mid-table for Stoke City. Next up, Huddersfield Town. This could be the trickiest one. Obviously, Carlos Corberán there. Decent players. They did amazing last season. Finishing 3rd is such a great achievement. I think the Championship is a bit more competitive this year compared to last, because you've got Norwich, Sheffield United are going to be stronger. I think Watford and West Brom are going to be decent as well. I think Huddersfield will be another decent team, but I think they could just fall short on the top 6. It's so painful how close they came, but didn't quite do it. I'm going to put them in my top 12 for now. I do like Huddersfield. It'd be amazing if they did finish in the top 6 again. Birmingham City next. This is a bit of a wild card from me. I think Birmingham City's long stay in the Championship will be ended. I think Birmingham City are going down. Now, obviously, they're now the longest serving Championship team after Derby's relegation and Forest promotion. And I think when you're in the Championship for so long and you're not getting better, you can almost start fading away. Now, I backed Birmingham to do fairly well last season, because when Lee Bowyer came in the 2021 season, they did amazing. But in the whole season under Lee Bowyer last year, I don't think they were very good, and they kind of got lucky that Reading and Derby had points deductions, because Birmingham really could have gone down. I think Birmingham might go down this year. I don't get inspired by their style of play. I don't think it helped that St Andrews was only half open last year. They've got good potential in terms of what they are as a club and the fan base, but I don't see much progression from Birmingham, so I think they could go down. Next up, my team Coventry. I'd love us to break into the top 6, but I'm trying to stay level-headed here. I think we could finish probably similar to last season, maybe push up to about 9th or 10th. Coventry did amazing at the start of last season, but we fell away and just about held on in there in the top half. I think we'll be in the top half again. We do seem to get better each season, but it is a massive jump in the Championship to go from 12th into that top 6. I think Mark Robins is a great manager. We'll let a few players go. We'll bring in some more. It'll be interesting to see if we can hold on to the likes of Gyökeres, O'Hare and Gustavo Hamer. That's something we're going to have to wait and see. But if I was to guess a place for Coventry, I'd say around 8th or 9th for next season. We'll wait and see. Next up, Sunderland. And there's always one team that comes up that does very, very well. And I think it'll be Sunderland. In fact, I'm going to say they'll make the top half. I think Sunderland as a club are massive. They've just come up and their stadium's already the biggest in the Championship. Their fans could really push them up a couple places. I think Alex Neil's a good fit for Sunderland, and they've been waiting to get back into the Championship, and now they're going to make it show. Sunderland will be a top 12 team for me. Last up, Swansea City, and I'm going to chuck one more wild card in there. Swansea are going to be my last team to break into the top 6. It really could be any of those teams between Burnley, Millwall, Middlesbrough, Huddersfield, Coventry, even Sunderland. But I think Swansea, for me, based on their style of play and what they've done in glimpses of last season, could be that team that just puts it together next season. So I'm saying Swansea make the top 6. That wraps up my predictions, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Like I say, take it with a pinch of salt, because this is not my official predictions. Make sure you've dropped a big thumbs up. Make sure you have subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.